Okay there class. Hey, welcome to my YouTube channel. It's Angelica here, and if you're new, have several seats. If you're not new, thanks for having me all up on your screen. I will be discussing how to write a first class law essay at a top university. This is not the road often travelled, but it's definitely doable. I have my tools over here. And I've got my notes over here. What is a first? A first is one of the degree classifications, especially for undergraduate courses. 40 to 50 is a third, 50 to 60 is a 2-2, 60 to 70 is a 2-1, and 70 upwards is a first class. This is insanely hard to get. If you're not from the UK, or if you are from the UK, you're probably thinking, oh okay, so I want a 99. I want 100 in my degree. Yeah, that's not gonna be happening, especially the top 5 universities, which includes LSE. The marking scheme is more stringent than other universities. At LSE, especially in the course like law, the highest people really get on average is like a 73. They don't mark up to 100. If your work is a 73, that can be published. That is really good, and not a lot of people get a first because of that reason. Obviously, it's influenced by the type of course you study. So if you're studying a quantitative subject, you're more likely to get a first because it's either yes or no, like you're either right or wrong. Whereas with an essay subject, it is so subjective. I'm going to show you my feedback. I got a grade 70. Most of my feedback was very good, but not necessarily excellent. So I engaged with the portfolio piece. I was accurate. I applied legal authorities. It was logical. What I did the worst was basically my grammar, and I know this because I didn't even really get to read over my essay many times. I had so many grammatical errors. It was satisfactory. That is almost poor. If I had improved my grammar, then I think I would have got like a 72, 73 maybe. Okay, so structure is the most important thing you can get right. My structure is on point right from when I set out to plan my essay to when I actually write it. I booked an appointment to attend a one-on-one session where I learned how to write. This was in my second year. This man changed my life. He taught me the pyramid method. So what this basically is, he drew out a triangle, and at the top of the triangle is your thesis. Your thesis is basically what your argument is. So for instance, your argument might be that London has amazing weather. That is your thesis, right? And that goes at the top of the pyramid. You need to think of 3 reasons why this is true. Your justification are the 3 reasons, or maybe even 5 or 6, but generally you probably have 3 depending on the length of the essay. But your justifications is gonna prove your thesis. That's what you put in the second part of the pyramid. Now at the bottom part of the pyramid, you basically need to have the evidence for your justification. In my body, I would explain each justification, and each paragraph would work to prove my thesis, and then I would conclude, basically reinstate my thesis and explain what we have learned, and then I would feed that back into what I said in the beginning about British weather being great, and that was it. That is the structure, that is the winning structure that can allow you to get a first in your law essays. Honestly, it changed my life, it changed the game. It's about the writing technique, it's about how authoritative you sound and how sure you are about your argument. So this is my introduction. Despite the shortcomings of the online harms white paper, it should be welcomed, notwithstanding its room for improvement. Smith's piece offers a comprehensive, though condemnatory, account of the online harms white paper by providing a brief insight into its purpose and scope with reference to particular sections. Smith oversimplifies the white paper arguments, and upon assessments, 3 running themes emerge. Smith's criticism centered, firstly, the regulator, secondly, the content of the proposals, and thirdly, the normative implications of the initiative. So in the body of my essay, I spoke about the 3 running themes, which is why you can see the headings, and then I concluded. I'm going to read my conclusion. The online harms white paper is a welcome recognition of the need to put values of fairness, inclusiveness, and democracy at the heart of the internet. Smith explained its nature and risks by denoting 3 substantial subjects of criticism. As per Tambini, the appropriate response to the paper is not to simply dismiss it. Proposals such as a differentiated model would mitigate Smith's very valid concerns. Many academic literature in discussing the online harms white paper have acknowledged the uniqueness of the internet and the challenges this evokes. If the road to hell is paved with good intentions, it has been demonstrated in this essay that on this motorway there can be more than one lane with more than one exit point, and thus hell does not have to be the only destination. The steps that I take when I'm writing an essay is that the first thing I do is that I think really hard about the question. I assess the question, I assess what has been asked of me by the person who wrote the question, I assess the context of the question. I don't just jump straight into answering. So, you know, I think about all the readings that I've done, I think about the implications of the wording, I highlight the most important parts of the question, even if they're not saying it directly in the question. What are the implications of this question? Like, why is it phrased in this way? And is there anything that I think it's trying to point me towards? Once I figure what the question is actually about, then I set out to plan my essay, and I plan using the pyramid structure, and then I write my outline, and then I fill information in, and that is how I create my essay. So at the very beginning I say what I'm gonna say, basically write my conclusion before I start writing, so I know what I'm gonna say already, and I basically just like have to go and source for information that will prove my point. I fill in the body basically like after I've written the outline. Of course I already have my evidence, but then I look for other things that might prove my point and make it more robust, because getting a first is not necessarily about what you say, it's about how you say it. It's not about your opinion, it's about how you prove your opinion. You can't have an opinion that's clearly obviously wrong. You have to use accurate information, but it's how you deliver it that matters the most. One thing that I do is that I make my point very clear from the beginning, and when other people disagree, I acknowledge other sides of the argument as I'm going. So I might say something and I realize, okay, other people disagree with me, but here's why they're wrong, or here's why my argument is more convincing than theirs, or here's why their argument is short-sighted, because their argument might make sense right now, but their argument wouldn't make sense if we tested it under a different circumstance. Those are the kind of things I would say to disagree with someone. You don't have to be super dramatic, you don't have to say they are wrong, you just have to be able to explain why your stance is the more reasonable or practical one. I'm going to give you a quick example of how I did this in my essay. So here it says, despite the merit in his arguments, the term demographic deficit is not the most appropriate. Instead, his statement exposes an underlying assumption that the regulator will have unrestricted irrational will and ignores the likely possibility of appeals. I basically just disagreed with a piece and I explained why, and then later on I also disagreed with something he said, and I used evidence from someone else to explain why their position is more rational than the person I'm disagreeing with. I said, these positions as presented by Tambini and Wishma are perhaps more reasonable, as unlike Smith, they acknowledge a potential for the regulator to exercise balance, legality and boundaries, especially in the context of the ECHR test of proportionality. I recommend doing this every few sentences as much as you can, because there's so many alternative opinions that people can offer to things you're saying, so you have to be able to acknowledge that yes, other people disagree, but I'm still maintaining my position because of XYZ. I use formatting and styling to my advantage, so I had headings and I used italics and bolds where necessary. My references were also pretty on point as well. So those are my skills on how to get a first in your law essay. So quick recap, structure is the most important thing, and you need to say what you're going to say at the beginning. You have an opinion and you don't have very long to convince them. Tell them what you think, tell them why you think what you think, tell them how you're going to prove what you think, and then go on and actually prove it. That is basically the philosophy of writing an excellent essay. And when you get to the conclusion, you tell them, this is what I have proved. I have done X, Y, Z. And if you are ambitious, you can let them know this is what you should do with the information I have provided you. You might have given an opinion and you might want to leave a point that allows someone else to springboard off of your idea and think about the implications of what you said. But this is not necessary in every situation. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please hit the thumbs up button and let me know if you have any suggestions of what you'd like to see in my next videos. I'll see you all in the next one. Bye!